Okay, absolute values. So we have vertical bars around numbers for reasons. So there's going to be times where someone might just say, the weather changed a lot today. And you already know whether it got hotter or colder, for example, because you were outside. And you don't need to know whether it went up or down. You can just say it changed. And absolute value just turns that change to always be positive whether it went up or down. So the absolute value of 2. Vertical bars around 2. It doesn't mean change a positive to be a negative. It doesn't mean change a negative to be a positive. It means do what's inside the absolute value, then make it positive. So nothing to be done. The answer is 2. Circle your answer. Okay, off to the right, the absolute value of -3. Well, it means do what's inside the absolute value, then make it positive. So nothing to be done, make it positive. Okay, 2 minus 4 inside of absolute values. Well, let's do that step. 2 minus 4 is -2 with absolute values around it. And the absolute value, the positive of -2, is 2. And then vertical bar 3, vertical bar negative, vertical bar -5. So we have a -5 in absolute values off to the right. So that will turn into 5. The +3 off to the left, the absolute value is still 3. Then we have 3 minus 5, which is -2. So just because we have absolute values doesn't mean we can't still obviously get negative answers. I hope you're writing smaller than I am, or put it on the next line. I'm going to make it look like the notes. So let's put a negative in front of absolute values. Well, the 3 inside the absolute values, we make that positive, so it becomes 3. But then there's a negative in front, so -3. 3. And then negative absolute value, -5. Well, -5, we got to make that positive. That's what the absolute values did. Carry everything else down that you haven't touched yet, the negative in front. Answer's -5. Okay, a very simple algebraic. Absolute value of x equals 4. So what we're going to do is called a positive case and a negative case, represented by a positive terminal and a negative terminal. So, reading the English instructions from the notes, distribute a positive into the absolute value equation, and distribute a negative into the absolute value equation, like the absolute values were brackets. So x equals 4, circle your answer. Then these brackets are unnecessary, scribble them out, divide both sides by -1, x equals -4. Circle your answer. So the method, again, the positive case, distribute a positive into the absolute value. The negative case, distribute a negative into the absolute value. Obviously, we're working with equations, we have to check our answer. So we have the absolute value of x equals 4, and we have 2x answers, so I'm going to write the formula again side by side so I don't forget after I've done one of them. So the first answer I got was 4. So I'm going to take 4 and put it into the left equation. Absolute value of 4 equals 4. And the absolute value of 4 on the left-hand side is 4. So check mark near x equals 4. And then taking -4 and putting it in for x, we get -4 absolute value equals 4. And on the left-hand side, the absolute value of -4 is 4. So 4 equals 4. Check mark near our answer, x equals -4. Okay, that's solving algebraically with a positive case and a negative case and checking your answer, obviously. My apologies. Shrink it up a little bit. And we're going to get a lot on this page, so you might have to use more than one. Okay, so next one, let's do a little line. So let's do the absolute value of x minus 2 equals 2. So again, I'm going to say a positive with a circle around it, calls it a positive terminal, and a negative with a circle around it, call it a negative terminal. On the left, with the positive case, I'm going to distribute a positive into the absolute value. Notice the positive case doesn't change. And then before I solve it, I'm going to do the negative case. I'm going to distribute a negative into the absolute value. So I'm going to solve. The brackets on the left are unnecessary. Scribble them out. Add 2 to both sides. X equals 4. Circle your answer. Equation on the right, distribute a negative in. Negative x plus 2 equals 2. Minus 2 minus 2, negative x equals 0. Divide both sides by negative 1. Cross off the negative in front. X equals 0. X equals 4 and 0. And as you can see, I've taken the x values and I put them back into the question that was given by substitution, both equations side by side, and they work. So, check mark, check mark. Check your answer. Every single question you ever do, always. I forgot something off to the right. I'm going to put a box around it. The absolute value of x cannot equal a negative. I'm going to give a number because sometimes I like whichever. It's impossible. An absolute value cannot equal a negative. It says in the notes absolute value equals a negative, impossible, but here I'm just going to put a cross through the equal sign. So if you get an equation that ever gets to an absolute value equaling a negative without anything else complicated to throw out that definition, does not exist, can't exist. A square root can't equal a negative, an absolute value can't equal a negative. So things that do not exist. So further down the page in the notes, let's take a look at that one together. So I will put it here and outline it in red. Ooh, we have a coefficient. Well, what are we going to do? Well, the same thing we did above. Positive case, distribute a positive into the absolute value. Negative case, distribute a negative into the absolute value. Then get our answers, check our answers, make sure they're correct, or maybe they're not. Okay, so let's do the next one together. So I'm going to go back up to my notes. This is obviously the page of notes that you are looking at in front of you right now. Okay, so the example at the bottom. The absolute value of x squared minus 1 equals x minus 1. So we do the positive case and the negative case. So distributing a positive into the absolute value and distributing a negative into the absolute value. So these brackets on the left are unnecessary. Let's get it equal to 0. X squared, let's minus x to both sides. Go back to grade 8 and learn here adding and subtracting to both sides. And then if we add 1 to both sides, equals 0. So let me get a tad more space. And we're going to factor it. So we have x open bracket, x minus 1 equals 0. Setting our factors equal to 0 separately. Solving. Adding 1 to both sides, x equals 1, solving, and then taking them, putting them back into the question. Now, as you can see in the notes, on the bottom left, when we put 0 in for x, it did not work. So we reject x equals 0. And it worked for 1, so check mark. Okay, negative case. Negative x squared plus 1 distributing the negative. Getting equal to 0, but this time I'm going to get to the other side. And in the notes I did something differently. I left it on the left-hand side. No, I think I brought it to the right and mirrored it at the same time. Oh, look at that. Let's do that. Let's bring it, well, I'm going to bring it to, I'm going to put 0, whatever. Sometimes the notes are different. I'm going to add x squared to both sides. I'm going to leave x where it is. I'm going to minus 1 to both sides. And this is what I'm going to factor. In the notes, it's equal to 0. It's all the same. So 0 equals, two numbers that multiply to get negative 2 and add to get 1 are positive 2 and negative 1. Set our factors equal to 0 separately and solve. Why don't I skip a step and just do it? Circle our answers, negative 2 and positive 1. And as you can see in the notes, when we substitute negative 2 in for x, it does not work. Reject. And x equals 1, check mark. Notice it's the same answer, but yeah, it's only one solution to this out of all of that work. But again, always the same. Positive case, negative case. Distribute a positive into the absolute value. Distribute a negative into the absolute value. Solve, check your answer. And remember, big red, top right, an absolute value can't equal a negative. Okay, so a tad on the next page, excuse me. So if you flip those pages over, you'll see a little bit. So an inequality, well, it's a number line. Like, it's just the same thing we've done, positive case and negative case, remembering your grade 9, 10 inequality stuff, putting on the number line, checking your answer, etc. Down below, another inequality, all the same type of stuff. Open dots, closed dots, and dividing by negatives, and all the rest. Okay, so in summary, absolute values, making things positive and doing the positive and negative case.